Turning to page 14, part 3. Now you will see only my tablature staff and my version of tablature notation. So I hope you've read all the text prior to here to understand where the pauses are and where the pauses are not, and where the longest pauses would be. So this is Skip to My Lou, which is a combination of some quarter notes, some eighth notes, and some half notes. The reason why I gave them to you in that order is because that's the order they occur within the song Skip to My Lou. Before we start this, though, like anything, I like to point out the treble spots coming up ahead. So let's look at the third measure. So that is, you have your first measure followed by a bar line, second measure followed by a bar line, and your third measure starts with a 2, and that is the center line of the staff, therefore third string, second fret. Now once again, I don't care which finger you are using at this point to find a fret on a string, just as long as you can find the fret. And I'm not too concerned about how fast you can play something. I'm more concerned about how you can get from one fret or one string to another. And that's why I'm pointing out this third measure, because you have kind of an awkward maneuver here. You have to play third string, second fret, here it is, twice. Then you have to move over to the fourth string, fourth fret. That's not an easy maneuver if you're brand new at this. There's the fourth string, fourth fret. And then in the fourth measure, beyond that next bar line, you have to get back to third string, second fret. And actually from there, the rest of the song is much easier. So it's that third measure that may kind of throw you off the railroad tracks a little bit. But first of all, let me play the tune without saying anything, and then I'll go back and talk through it a little more. With the same count, 4 beats, but now my 4 beats will be the actual tempo of the first 4 notes. In the previous exercises, my 4 beats were actually 2 eighth notes per beat. So this time, the notes will flow right with my 4 count. Here it comes. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to stop there, but notice at the end of the piece is a bar line plus a shaded in line, a thicker line, and there are 2 dots in front of that bar line. And that is called a repeat sign, which is to tell you to go back to the very beginning and repeat the whole thing. There are other forms of repeat signs which we'll talk about shortly. Normally, I would have played the tune twice in rhythm without any more pause than the length of the notes themselves required, but I thought I'd point out the repeat sign. Now, let me give it a little talk through. Every time I come to an X, I'm going to say the word "and" to remind me to pause. And every time I come to an R, I'm going to say the word "relax." And that R's are almost always, not all the time, but almost always in conjunction with an X to present you the half notes, the longest notes in the song. Same count. 1, 2, 3, 4. And, 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 relax. And, 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 relax. And, and, relax. And, relax. And relax. Repeat. And relax. And relax. And relax. And we'll now play it at a more medium tempo. Once again, I don't expect you to be able to keep up with me right now, but sometimes you can hear the tune better when played at a more up-tempo rhythm. So now I'm counting off a little faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. And relax. And relax. And relax. Repeat. Okay, still on page 14, about repeat signs. So we already know when we see that two dots at the end of a tune, it tells us to go all the way back to the beginning and repeat the entire tune. Now sometimes in a song or a tune, you will have the two dots at the end of the tune and then an opposite two dots where the tune started off. Or sometimes within the song, you will find these pair of repeat signs that are opposite to each other, the dots that is, and they tell you to repeat that section. So let me play this piece where it says about repeat signs, start, and it's mostly eighth notes with a little pause at the end of each measure. And I'll play it just as written with following the repeat signs. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. Pause. Repeat. Pause. Pause. And the next exercise. What we have here are what we call first and second endings. You play from the beginning of the piece. You have your first measure, a bar line, second measure, a bar line. Now the third measure has a bracket above it, marked 1, and at the end of that measure is a repeat sign. And you have to follow that repeat sign back to its opposite sign. Play the first measure again, play the second measure again, but now you will skip that bracket 1 and go right to bracket 2 and keep going from there. So here's what it sounds like all put together. This is the tablature staff marked first and second endings. 1, 2, 3, 4. And repeat. Bracket 2 and moving on now to the repeat measure sign. The final staff on page 14. We have a measure of eighth notes on various strings, followed by what might look like a percent sign to you. When that appears in the middle of a measure, it means play everything over again from the previous measure. exactly as it appeared. And then we have a second one of those repeat measure signs in the third measure on this little exercise, and it means to play those exact same notes yet again. And then notice something else that hasn't appeared on this page called the final bar line. That means the end of a piece of music. Notice there are no two dots there, and that means you do not repeat, but just end the piece there at that double line, the thin line followed by the thicker line. So that denotes the end of a tune. Here's what the final exercise, the repeat measure sign, would sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next measure, same. Third measure, same. End of tune. Coming into page 15 now, how to count time. So exercise 1, the first tab staff, has some numbers written above the staff, and those represent beats of the measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. The X's, or the pauses, are between those beats of 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I'm going to do is follow the instructions as asked for. I'm going to tap my foot to each note as it appears, and then repeat the exercise saying the numbers of each note, and still tapping my foot. Hopefully you can hear my foot in the microphone if I tap it hard enough. And as always, a count of 4, and the notes will go right along with the count of 4. And I'll start tapping my foot with the count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exercise 2. Adding the and beats. Remember that you are tapping your foot to each note in exercise 2, saying the word and in between each note. So let me count in advance, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then we begin the exercise. And I will continue to say those beats and tap my foot as loudly as I can to be heard. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that was number 2 with the repeat. Notice on these exercises, I should have pointed that out earlier, but now I'm playing with my middle finger, picking, and it's picking up towards me as I look down at the banjo, picking that first string. Now read with me just below exercise 2, Exercise 3 is all eighth notes. They will be played twice as fast as the notes in exercise 2. No pauses. But again, the foot should only tap on 1, 2, 3, 4, while the plus, or the word and, is used for the plus sign, while the and notes are between foot taps. So I will count this off with the ands again, but now the banjo will play with the counts because they're the twice as fast eighth notes. However, the foot will tap on just 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 all eighth notes. Now let me wrap up this chapter and this talk about quarter notes versus eighth notes with another exercise that is not written down in the book, but let me do a comparison exercise, a measure of 4 quarter notes followed by a measure of 8 eighth notes, and I will run that through twice with the same count and the same tapping of the foot, and played on the first string, picked with my middle finger. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and